What's going on, everyone? So glad you could join us for another one of our Southwest Church student ministry lessons. Today, we're actually wrapping up our origin story series. This week, or this whole month, we've been talking about just kind of superheroes and how heroes do a few different things to accomplish their missions. We've been talking specifically about our mission to make disciples and show other people the love of Jesus. So some of the things we've covered this month include how heroes embrace their identities, their God-given purpose and their mission, how they take care of others, especially those right in front of them, and how they know that they can't save the world alone, that they need a team. Well, today, as I was thinking about other superhero movies, I was thinking about Captain America, and specifically the movie Captain America Civil War. And last week we talked about how the disciples sometimes struggle to get along. Well, today we're going to be talking even more about conflict. And especially in Captain America Civil War, there was a lot of conflict between a couple groups. But what's funny is they were all, ordinarily on the same side, but yet they were in conflict and they weren't able to really accomplish their mission as well. And sometimes heroes get in fights. Sometimes there are conflicts that don't really help our mission. And so that's going to be our conversation today. And when we think about heroes, I think we often think about saving the world in big ways, like defeating a bunch of aliens or preventing evil villains from destroying a city. But in real life, being a hero is more about what you do in ordinary moments. Heroes are courageous, they're strong, they're compassionate, they're driven to make wrong things right in the world. And sometimes the best way to do that is by owning our mistakes and reconciling with someone who we've hurt, or maybe has hurt us, even when we didn't mean to hurt them. In the book of Luke, we read about a time when a lawyer tried to trap Jesus into saying something that would upset the religious authorities of the day. But Jesus wasn't fooled. So we're going to read in Luke chapter 10, starting in verse 25. And behold, a lawyer stood up to put him to the test, saying, "Teacher, what shall I do to inherit eternal life?" He said to him, "What is written in the law? How do you read it?" And he answered, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself." And he said to him, "You have answered correctly. Do this, and you will live." But he, desiring to justify himself, said to Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" It's almost like this lawyer was asking Jesus, how much can I get away with and not get in trouble? Or what's the bare minimum I can do to please God? Well, Jesus flips the question and says the best way to please God is simple, to love your neighbor as yourself. But loving your neighbor is not simple or easy. This lawyer wasn't totally satisfied with Jesus' answer to love God and his neighbor, so he asked, well, who is my neighbor? So Jesus answers that question starting in verse 30. Jesus replied, "A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and he fell among robbers, who stripped him and beat him and departed, leaving him half dead. Now by chance a priest was going down that road, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. So likewise a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he journeyed, came to where he was, and when he saw him, he had compassion. He went to him and bound up his wounds. Then he set him on his own animal and brought him to an inn and took care of him." There's no doubt the Samaritan man in this story is the hero. He noticed the need, showed compassion, and saved this man's life. Now, there's a lot of background stuff that we've probably talked about before about the Samaritans and the Jews and their conflicts. But what's important to notice is that the Samaritan man didn't set out to be a hero. He simply saw a need and met it. Other people saw the need, but passed by. The Samaritan man saw and then he loved. He was heroic in an ordinary moment. Now, have you ever seen a need but ignored a person? Well, today I want to be even more specific about needs. Have you ever seen someone get hurt by your words or your actions but ignored the problem? So far in this series, we've talked a lot about heroes righting wrongs, but all of the wrongs we've talked about so far have been wrongs that the hero didn't create. So what happens when a hero, when us, cause harm or hurt someone, intentionally or not? Heroes are known for righting wrongs, but sometimes the hardest wrongs to right are the wrongs that we've caused. Everyone wants to be a hero in situations when they get to do something big and flashy and everyone notices and applauds, but real heroes know the most heroic things happen when hardly anyone notices but you and God, or when you take responsibility and work to right your own wrongs. Heroes are heroic in ordinary moments. So who is your neighbor? Well, for starters, your neighbor is the person you can't stand, or the person who can't stand you. Maybe it's the person you're fighting with right now, or your neighbor is also the person that you haven't talked with in a while because they're still angry or hurt because of what you did or said. Or it's the sibling or parent that's hurt you or you have hurt. And when we fight with our neighbors, it's easy to start putting up fences between them and us, like bitterness and anger, or maybe it's silence or guilt. There's so many things that we put up between us and them. And when we talk about reconciliation, that doesn't mean we let someone continue to hurt us. That means just making things right between us and them. So how do we reconcile with someone who feels hurt or angry at us? Well, even if you both feel hurt or angry, someone needs to make the first move towards reconciliation. If you want to be heroic, let it be you. Now, how do you reconcile? Well, 2 words: admit and apologize. Admit how you hurt the person and then apologize. If they've hurt you, you can share that, but definitely don't use that as an excuse to not take ownership of what you've done or said. This week, I want you all to do something heroic. Let's choose to reconcile with someone who we've hurt and right a wrong that we've caused. For you, maybe this looks like a friend and you've said hurtful things. Maybe it's a parent that you've disrespected or a sibling that you didn't act loving towards. Apologies don't always guarantee healing or reconciliation. Your apology might get rejected, or the relationship might be beyond repair. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't try to right the wrong that you've made. And I know that's not easy. Being the first person to apologize is difficult, but that's exactly why we're talking about it today. And that's exactly why it's heroic. Heroes right wrongs. Heroes fight for justice. That's what Jesus came to do. That's one of the important parts of his ministry here on earth. And it's a mission that he's called us to be a part of too. And most of the time, the kind of heroism God calls us to isn't flashy or newsworthy, but it is life-changing. There's so many people who come back to church because of reconciliation with a friend. It happens one person at a time, one moment at a time, one mission at a time. It happens in your hallways at school or your living rooms at home. When we commit to healing and restoring relationships that we've broken. You're not only capable of being a hero, you're called by God to be one. And that's why we've been talking about it this month. So how are you going to join Jesus on his mission to save the world? Well, that starts by reconciliation and just restoring relationships that we have hurt and people that we've said mean things to. In the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, Jesus says this. He says, if you're offering gifts at the altar, and then remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go. First be reconciled to your brother, and then come and offer your gift. Well, what he's saying is that we can't do these religious things and look good, try to look good before God and others when we have a conflict with someone going on in our lives. So you have to go and take care of that before you can be in a right standing to come before God. Because we can't act all righteous and then leave hurt unnoticed or like the needs unmet. In Colossians chapter 3, verse 13, which we talked about also last week, Paul says, bearing with one another, and if one has a complaint against another, forgiving each other. As the Lord has forgiven you, so you also must forgive. Now, this is part of what we talked about last week. We're just having good relationships with one another who are Christians. Well, this applies to all of us, all of the neighbors, as Jesus would have said. If we're going to tell people about Jesus' forgiveness, we have to live it out. We can't accept the forgiveness that Jesus gives us when we've sinned against him and not forgive others, or not seek forgiveness when we have messed up. To accomplish our mission to make disciples and tell other people about Jesus' love in ordinary moments, we have to be the hero. That means noticing when we've hurt someone and fixing it. whether that's parents, siblings, friends, or anyone else. In order to tell others about the love of Jesus, we have to show others his love by seeking reconciliation in our relationships.